Howdy doody, ladies and gents. It's the Day 9 Daily 470 Part 3 where we're admiring Bomber, who's great. And we're going to continue to admire him once I load up the correct replay. Ha! In Part 1, we motivated a little bit about what makes TvP troublesome. We get this infrastructure up of 3 barracks, 2 base, and a starport. And then we kind of have to just work with that only for the next long time. And in that long period, we're getting an expansion, we're getting our other barracks, upgrades, Ghost Academy, and it feels very grim for us unless we do a lot of damage to the Protoss opponent. But what we're seeing in Bomber's play in Part 2, how if we just readjust our economy a little bit, we can get 2 extra barracks earlier, get an expansion at the same time, and just start blasting down the front door, which opens up all these new possibilities. We'd have to guess no more because we'll see all his units at the front. In this last game, we're going to see a beautiful, beautiful game between Bomber and MC, where I guess I'd just say you see that one of the counters to this play is being the best Protoss in the world, which isn't really useful, but we're going to see some of the deficiencies of this play from Bomber. And I don't want to say that, you know, it's not as easy as, oh, well, now that I know his deficiencies, I just exploit it. All good play is really hard to crack, but it's important you can see how to crack it. It's very easy to watch Bomber play a couple of games and just go, well, you don't stop that. People don't stop that. What the hell? So let's come back into this game. This is probably going to be the most interesting of the games we look at today, just due to its sweet long-term nature and the decisions from both sides. So for now, let us just recite the build. Do note that this depot is here instead of at the front. This will save you 15 minerals building it here instead of building it up here. Barracks first. 1 Marine. Immediately building a command center, then a depot, then we go back to SCV Marine production. Oh yeah. We're going to go ahead and build that bunker as early as humanly possible, and then barracks at 4, barracks at 4:15, boom, and then gas at 4:30. No problem! Excellent. Every 15 seconds we do a thing. Sure, we can poke out with our little mariners, but we love our mariners. We want to keep them alive. That 3rd barracks, when it finishes, we add on the tech lab, as you might expect. We are never stopping that SCV production, and my god are we good at making sure that we constantly add on depots. The instant we start STEM is the same instant we build our 2nd refinery. If we're worried, we go ahead and build a bunker, but you're noticing that at this juncture of gameplay, Bomber has really not seen anything out of his opponent. He builds a factory and an eBay when he has the gas to build the factory. And we go ahead and throw down that good old Happy Time refinery at the third refinery, right around the time our factory's finishing up. We're seeing, oh my goodness, some pressure at the front. We're having to go crazy and pull all sorts of dudes off. Oh my gosh. But we managed to stay alive. We do this fun time, swappy time. And at around 8:30 is when we'd normally like to build this command center, but we got messed with. We lost some stuff. We lost some workers. So this delayed us by a pinch, but it actually only delayed us 20 seconds. As we can see that at 8:53, goes right on down. We're getting on these other 2 add-ons, we're building our medevacs, and we never wait too long before we build these extra barracks. 9:30. Oops, I keep hitting the wrong button. Cool. So we've identified a lot of what this factory ends up being kind of a critical scout for us. One of the most important aspects of this build, and what I wanted to emphasize in Part 3, is that we're just moving this factory out to go ahead and scout. Back home, we just get our first 4 medevacs up right away. Here's 2. And okay, we've seen a 3rd nexus really, really early on. This will almost always indicate some sort of ghost play. Or, excuse me, indicate some sort of Templar play, which we respond to by going ghost. These 2 medevacs are in the worst place known to man, so Bomber rearranges them. And he's just going to drill the front. Oh, cool, look at this. He's going for upgrades a little bit earlier. Always around 11:30, you can decide, do I want to go Ghost? Do I want to go Vikings? Or you can decide, do I want to go for mega upgrades? On a big map, Bomber's deciding that he does indeed want to go for mega upgrades.
Research.
And with 4 medevacs, we have the freedom to do this sort of thing, where we just drop, blast away, and retreat.
Additional supply depots required.
Cool. Cool. So, alright. We don't want to go too crazy going 4th command centers, so what we do is we add on 3 barracks and the Ghost Academy right away. Just notice how much faster Bomber is getting everything. Almost always you'll be ahead of your opponent in food. So we do get our ghosts up and we start pushing. It's all pretty intuitive at this point. I'm not doing a lot of analysis because that was largely parts 1 and 2. Still building 3 SCVs at a time and blah blah blah. I wonder if I missed this when I was watching these games. It looks actually as though Bomber cuts SCV production at a certain point. I actually want to double check this really fast because it looks like, oh yeah, wow, would you look at that. When he's moving out, I think he's actually cutting SCVs. I don't see SCVs being produced in here. Yeah, he's sort of trickling them in. Yeah, look at that. Wow.
Research.
He was building them non-stop up into this point because I looked into that. But that's actually kind of interesting. Perhaps that's how he's just getting a few extra rounds of medevacs out. Neat. Alright, sweet. So, around 11, we decided, okay, cool. He is going for this long-term play. I'm just going to go long-term and get upgrades. And then we're following it up with ghosts. And Bomber wants to just not lift up on this aggression. With this style, always you want to not lift up on your aggression for quite some time. Unless he's going Colossus. And then in which case you want to rack up a couple rounds of Vikings and then continue the aggression. But yeah, we did our first aggression, a drop, which killed off the Nexus, and now we're going to do round 2. We have ghosts to be able to deal with those high tempo. And quite simply, you just keep shoving and EMPing and storm dodging. Marines are the unit to emphasize against gateway mixtures, not Marauders. If you're building too many Marauders, then that will cause you a lot of losses, because pretty much all gateway units are good against Marauders. And yes, I include the Stalker in that mix, because rarely is it just Stalker. It's like Stalker plus Force Fields. Gateway units are just very, very kind to Marauders. But the Marines get ripped apart so quickly. Or the Marines rip gateway units apart so quickly. So this looks like, oh no, a tragic loss for Bomber. Not really, he just keeps macroing and just churning out lots of units. And pushing. It's obviously hard to deal with a player as good as MC. But we're seeing, look at the lead that Bomber has, 170 to 130. Never has Bomber really, or excuse me, MC had the opportunity to just shove back at us. We have to be really careful against these storms. And of course against these feedbacks. And this is just a micro-type battle. The one issue that you're always going to have if you are a very aggressive player like Bomber is, interestingly, this Warp Prism counter-aggression that has not really been a thing for a long time. Like, no one's really seen a lot of aggressive Warp Prism play out of Protosses, but suddenly, with the Terran having to split his forces up, MC can engage this directly. It's still really damn hard for MC because Bomber's upgrades are so good and is continuing to flood with ghosts. And he loses a bunch of medevacs for no reason. But MC was able to split the Terran's forces up long enough to shove this way. And then this sort of stuff happens. The Warp Prism is like the antidote to these hyper-aggressive players. You have defensive units like the Templar. That moment was like the equalizing storm of the game, but the damage was really with this sort of Warp Prism dynamic stuff. And this is actually becoming like the gameplay norm for Protosses against Terrans, is to just be like, oh yeah, come on, be aggressive with me. Warp Prism in the main. Actually, Sase does this cool style on 2 bases. Ordinarily, a robo facility-focused 2-base will be something like 1 robo, 3 gateways. I get up some sentries and an immortal, and then I might add on a couple other gateways. Maybe 5 total, but I'll be going immortal Colossus, so that'll burn up most of my funds. So Sase does do the sentry immortal stuff. Then he gets a Twilight Council and 8 gateways total and a Warp Prism. So he has all the sentries and the Immortals back home, maybe a couple Zealots in there. And then he just floats the Warp Prism to the Terran main with 4 Zealots in it. And then when Terran shows up at the front with his dropping and he's going all over the place, Sase unloads the Zealots and then warps in 8 Zealots into the Terran main. And a lot of Terrans lose immediately. Like, this Warp Prism play trickery is just so sick. It's so sick. And we literally saw Bomber just like crushing, literally almost winning the game right here. This is in the finals of the tournament. Like, just inches away from winning. Maybe if he just kited a little bit more aggressively here, he could have pulled back. And then at that 18-minute mark, with this freaking Warp Prism that just showed up out of nowhere, just almost gets picked off, but doesn't. Bomber has to rally a whole bunch of stuff here, despite this battle. I mean, this is the really tough, crappy spot that Terran can find themselves in, is that they're so good in mobile, but it's weird, they're like mobile in a big ball. They're not good at splitting their forces up in late game.
Mineral field.
Just picks them apart, and then suddenly, Bomber
Upgrade.
looking a little bit, oh no, oh my god, where do I position my stuff? Back here to defend. Oh wait, there's a push at the front. Oh my god, this is not commentary, this is just screaming, because I really, quite honestly, like just screaming like that. And now Bomber is no longer. So, what have we done in the Day 9 Daily today? In part 1, we got the chance to see weaknesses and general difficulties that Protoss struggle with. We did see that they were 2 games that Terran won. Puma was able to defeat MC in that game, and Select ended up being able to defeat State, but that didn't mean that the problems didn't show up. We were low on production buildings, we didn't know when to build Vikings or Ghosts, and we always felt like we had this ultra-fragile army that had to do wonders in the mid-game. In part 2, we introduced this opening from Bomber that creates all these opportunities because we have more stuff than our opponent. We end up generally delaying our upgrades some, but with our aggression we know when to build Vikings, when to build Ghosts, and we'll still end up with a very early 3rd base. And we got to see how it has this huge ability to deal with variety in a number of ways. And in part 3, we looked at this gameplay under a similar lens. 8:30 is when we're doing this interesting decision with this Minerals, Command Center, or Barracks. At 11, we're doing an interesting tech choice, Vikings, or Ghosts, or upgrades. We want the upgrade route in that game, and then quickly with Ghosts. And we got to see, cool, you can just blast down the Protoss front door with huge aggression, and there's just not that much that he can do about it, other than have really slick play. And most importantly of all, we saw this kind of concern of, ooh, I need to be careful of how to deal with Warp Prism based play if that Protoss starts to stabilize, or just any counterattack of small number based play that will cause me to split up my units. So hopefully you Terran players out there, you beautiful Terran users, you can use this build and start really crushing faces and have a lot more interesting problems to have against Protoss, because a lot of the problems the Terran were having, quite honestly, are boring to solve. Like, Protoss has the money mix, death ball, face killing mix. I guess I just have to position my army perfectly. So, it's not cool. This is like, oh, I'm doing aggression in this way, I'm seeing this mix, and these are the angles. Aggression is fun. So let's go ahead and take some questions. I will regretfully not be using the Markio question grabber today due to the fact that I'm unsure of how things are going to work with the new chat. All right, let us divine here. So, Pig Ziff says, Day 9, I like many Terrans cut corners in the early game against Toss to make my mid-game timing stronger. However, this can leave me vulnerable to early attacks and all-ins. What are some good scout timings or preparations to help me stay alive while still keeping a very strong mid-game? One thing that I will note is with this build, you're not actually cutting that many corners. You are just re-optimizing your gas timings and delaying your starport a little bit and just having a huge boom force. And you can still get these nice happy time bunkers up if you need. Some timings that are really good. What are some timings that come off the top of my head? Oh God, what are some ones? You can see if a Protoss player is triple expanding by scouting his third base at around 7 minutes. That can generally be quite eye-opening, around 6:30 to 7. And if you do spot a third base, often you're going to be up against a big 8 warp gate attack, which this build is fantastic against. Really recommend it. That's a big timing. I think the biggest one is probably the 7:05 scan timing. 7:05, 7:35 are scan timings where you can scan right. Let me just you can scan right here at the edge, especially if you haven't been able to see he's expanded, and you just do a scan right there, and you can click and see how long his mineral field has been down. Like if you scan at 7 or 7:35 and you see that he hasn't really mined that much minerals, there's probably something going on harassment wise in the base. I'm trying to think of the big early all-in timings. There's not really anything particularly scary that can come up, with the exception of some big warp gate attacks at 7:30 that have a lot of sentries. Those are some big ones. 7 and 7:30 are going to be the notable ones, and also the parting style 5 to 7 gateway shoves that happen at around 8:30 to 9:30 are when the big timings are. So how do you, let's see, how do you scout that? The big thing is to get your early set of Marines. Like if you see no Zealot when you're at the start of the game, and he'll almost always be chrono boosting out a Stalker, you can just move out with your initial 7-8 Marines and just shove the Stalker back quite a bit and then do a calm retreat. I'll actually load up a game of that just so you can see. And this actually ends up being quite revealing in terms of information, because if he has, you know, like 2, 3, 4 Stalkers, probably not going to be a big all-in coming at any time soon. If he does do an early all-in, it really requires a lot of sentries, and if you're building all those Stalkers early on, they're expensive, so they get in the way of you building more gateways for minerals, and of course it's gas, you're not devoting the sentries. Where is this other game? That's such an interesting question. I love that question. Thank you so much for asking that. I think it was Pigziff who asked that one. What a great question. So let me just show this little shove out timing. It can help so much. Let's see. I don't want to give timings of when you see the observer ripple. You know, like if you see a ripple at 7:55 on a big map, then you know that he's probably capable of going for a Colossus all-in. I mean, that's like really technical, and I don't want to say to anyone who's like platinum, like, you have to look for observer ripples. Like, you only really need to look for that if you're really, or if you're like against a really good players. You don't really need to do that at other levels. Let me just pop in here. So, come on, little switcher. Yep. See, around 7 minutes you can push out. Just when you have like around, if you have enough Marines to be able to take out 2 Stalkers, somewhere between 7 and 10, just sort of shove on down. Actually, 7's probably low. I would say 9 or 10. Just shove on out. Do a little bit of damage, and you can get a nice little scout going on with that. But for the most part, there's not actually that many big, scary early timings. Like, with this amount of Stalkers up, I would be surprised if Protoss had any more than this mixture in his base. But I would say that just those 2 timings of the 7 to 7:30 3-gate pushing, or the 8:30 to 9:30 big warp gate style pushes. And generally, like, if you're really unsure at 7:35 or 8 minutes, you scan. It's fine to scan then. Totally fine. Totally. If you want to get technical, you can do the Marine move-out timings and stuff like that. So, let's go ahead and... banned. Let's see here. One more question. Ensign Lee says, Day 9 is a Protoss player. Do I just accept that Terran's doing this build will get their third faster than I? It seems as though it's impossible to hold this early third with a build like Bombers. I would say that you can hold an early third. It's quite difficult. I wonder if there's a game of it occurring. But I mean, what it will force is more of, you can't do everything as Protoss. What Protoss used to be able to do were get an early third, end fast 1-1, end Colossus tech. Pretty consistently, and there was just not that much that Terrans could do about it. But with this, you can maybe go 1-1 in Colossus on 2 base. You can maybe go 3 base with a bunch of warp gates and like 1 forge or something like that, but it's quite difficult to do in a lot of other circumstances. Do I just accept that he gets the 3rd base up? I mean, basically, yeah, you accept that it's a good build. The warp prism tactics are going to work a little bit better if he's going for an early third, because there's just too many places for him to cover. There was one game. Let me actually go ahead and load this one up. This will be the final one, where we will see Bomber have trouble getting up his fast third. Any counterattack to a Terran who's doing this build is just going to be great. So, I will do the closeout for the show and then show this replay and turn it off. So, last 3 dailies for a long time, as I'm taking the rest of June off. After Thursday, no more dailies. Done with broadcasting. Just on a break. On a break. Because I was dying. I was dying in life. And that's all. Had a lot of fun at the Collegiate Star League this weekend. That was a blast. Been having a lot of fun doing that travels. Did a little bit of special stuff. I did a special project with Husky StarCraft today. And holy shit, Husky is so awesome. I love Husky. Mike is the man. He's the most laid-back, friendly, happy person like ever. I'm inspired by Mike's ability to just be happy at all times. Oh god, I want to be like that guy. He's so good. Let me just show you that this is a build. This is the last thing that we're going to look at. This is a build, same build that we've been seeing out of Bomber, where he's getting this really early Ghost Academy, early third, early 5 barracks, continuing to add on more fancy swag. And what we see out of MC is just a very aggressive gateway army, like opened up with these 6 gateways and is adding on a hell of a lot more. And per usual, MC going for blink over other things. You're seeing Bomber way the hell up on the supply count. Like, way hell the fuck up there. But we see some storms giving some issues, but not really. What actually is going to give Bomber the problems is these large to medium counterattacks. Where sure, big attack up here, difficult to deal with. But the issue's kind of being forced down here at the 3rd base. And then all we have to do is get a couple good storms. Terran, who's split. Look how we have a lot of army here that really wasn't able to be back there by our base. And MC's able to take it down. So that's the show, guys. That was a good show that was clean and well organized, and I'd like to thank Bomber for making my job easy and letting everyone look at his awesome builds. I'm done. Thank you. You're beautiful. Woo!